Good evening, everyone. Welcome to regular meeting of Malahide Council on October 17th, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:01. We'll begin with the approval of the agenda. Any additions under new business? No changes? Okay, we'll proceed with the motion, please.
That the October 17th, 2024 regular council meeting agenda be approved as presented.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Cerna moves, Councillor Lewis seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Next is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one item K, the Laidlaw drain.
Thank you. That's all this evening, so noted. Any announcements? Seeing none this evening. Forgot to bring our plaque from our bowling win. Forgetting. Yeah, I know, exactly. Leave a big hole on my wall. So I'll try to remember next time. Next, we'll go with the adoption of minutes. So we have minutes from our previous council meeting of October 3rd. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, resolution, please.
That the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on October 3rd, 2024 be adopted.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor moves. Councillor Wilson seconds. All in favor? That is carried. We don't have any public meetings, no delegations. Oh, yes, we do have delegation. No public meetings, delegation here. We have two delegations. I was skipping right ahead over the agenda there. The Springfield Swans, welcome. Rosemary, Kelly, nice to see you. Are you both coming up?
I really don't have anything to say because I sent the proposal, everything basically that we wanted to say. We're just here if you have questions. Because it is time sensitive to get this done before winter gets here. The area needs to be prepped and.
Right. So would you mind, since maybe not just for the sake of the public and just to set the stage?
Yep.
For any discussions or questions, can you remind us just the highlights of?
Okay,
what you
yep,
proposed?
we have been offered a very large decorative rock. It's actually on Rosemary's property right now. It says Kennedy on it. It has a tractor on it. We would like to move it to the Memorial Park. We have an area near the pine tree at the back that is close for putting it in place. It's near the back of the property. We are thinking of changing the lettering to add corner to it, make it Kennedy's Corner in honor of Rosemary's husband, George, and also Rosemary, who's done a lot for Springfield and the township. We will assume all the costs to move it, prep the area. We just need your approval to do that. So that's what we're here for.
Okay, thank you for that overview. So, and first I want to acknowledge all of the work and the thought behind your proposal. And I can see why and why it could make sense to do that. I know that for council and staff, we have to take your suggestion in the bigger context of a public space and, you know, the rest of the townships and our constituents. So, so we wouldn't make a decision this evening, but perhaps while we have council here and staff, if there are questions or any further clarifications, and while we have you here, that we can have this evening any comments from staff. And I would suspect that to help council make a decision, I think we could receive your recommendations and sort of inform us on the implications of this kind of proposal. Mr. Godby?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to council. So I did discuss these lovely ladies, this proposal a couple weeks ago. And that is one of the reasons that they're here tonight to kind of get council's feedback on doing something like this. Generally, it's not necessarily specific to this exact scenario, but just for the township in general, we want to make sure that when, any kind of donations or additions are being made to any of our facilities, that they are also in the best interest of the township, and that the desire of council as a whole. One of the concerns that comes around is, future maintenance costs. Things like, if this rock needs to be moved in the future, or something changes in the park and it needs to be removed for whatever reason, how does that look? Who is going to be responsible for it? Where is it going to go from there? There's all those kind of nuances that we just want to make sure that we're clear about before we say, yes, go ahead and put it there. I mean, on the very surface level, I don't really see any huge issues. It's a rock. I'm sure it'll look nice, all those things. But it's more that overarching concept, because this does kind of tail into other items where we have, requests for memorial benches or trees or things like that, other donations that want to be given to the township. And it's not to say that we don't want these things, but it's also to say that not all donations are necessarily in the long-term best interest of the municipality, in the sense that, something can be turned over when it comes with high future maintenance costs. That is something that is then inherently becomes borne by the taxpayer. So we just want to be cognizant of those types of scenarios. Going back specifically to this, I understand that there's a bit of sense of urgency on the sense that where the rock is currently located is going to be changing ownership. So there's a bit of urgency to get that out of there. But other than that, I don't really see there being any major showstoppers from our operational standpoint. Just as long as council as a whole is satisfied that they want this rock to be placed there. I don't profess to know the long history of Malahide as well as sure anyone else in this room. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have them come to council looking for your support, knowing that we're talking about a dedication for an individual that I don't necessarily have the history on, and it's going to be tied to the municipality for a long period of time. So from that, I guess I don't really have much else to add. We're more than happy to accommodate if it is council's wish, and as long as we can kind of sort out, if there's any future problems or the rock needs to be relocated in another time, if it needs to get out of the park for some reason, what happens? What does that look like? Those are really the kind of details we want to kind of iron out.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and I could see that, and we don't want to overcomplicate things, but we still need to think it through, because sometimes, like, as you said, at the surface, it seems like such a nice idea, and then things change, and then, oops, we didn't think about this, or we didn't think about that, and who looks after this and who looks after that? And I know we've dealt with a similar case even at the county museum, and it's so interesting how quickly it gets complicated. Like, something so simple with good intentions suddenly, because the details were not sorted out. So I think that's the intent. So I don't know if there are further questions or comments, but I think if staff could recommend, like, help us think this through and anticipate, and perhaps recommend some sort of, I don't know if you recommend that if this is precedent setting, like, do we need a new policy, or do we need just an MOU, memorandum of understanding, just for this specific case, that the things that we say verbally would actually be captured in writing to say, well, we agree that who's going to do what, who's going to pay for what in the near future. Mr. Gomby.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree 100%. I think it's just important to recognize that this is not necessarily, likely not for any of us in this room, so much as for those people, 20, 30 years down the road who are in these chairs and they decide to have a discussion. At least it's firmly documented as to why it's here and what the expectations were on both parties. And just on the note of potential for an MOU, I've already been discussing the potential of an MOU with the Swans for other landscaping services within the park as well. So I mean, it wouldn't be much for us to kind of look at these two MOUs. One, I would say maybe the ongoing landscaping stuff we talk about would be kind of issue number one, and number two being the rock. No particular order there. But to have two separate sets of documentation so that everybody is clear as to what everybody is getting out of this.
Counselor Cerna and then Counselor Glinski.
Yeah, thank you. It's a nice looking rock. What kind of tractor is that? Massey Harris, okay. No, but my when I look at it, Memorial Park, nice. Springfield is a unique community, and there's been a lot of people here over the years. It's a small community, and a lot of people have done a lot of things for this community. And when I look back, if you start with one, to me, it's going to snowball. And pretty soon you're going to have a rock park here. So we got to look at this and think, I go back when I was a kid, I think it was Milton Craig was the start of Craig Lumber. And then his two boys took over. So the next thing you know, they're going to look at this and say, hey, that's a nice idea. So the next thing you know, they're going to want a big rock there and call it Craig's Corner. And then you got Bill McIntyre, who was an insurance man here on council, helped build the village up to something it was. So you're going to have McIntyre's Mountain, and it goes on and on and on. So yeah, we got to take a good hard look at this and see what's going on. So I don't know what you can do with it in the meantime. Kelly, you're in Springfield, so maybe you can have it on your front lawn, something else to mow around.
That's been suggested, and I won't repeat what I said.
Okay, but I think that's another aspect of it. And I go to Elmer when they changed, I think it was Monteith Park, and they changed it to Palmer Park. And that was a contentious issue. So we got to be careful what we do here. So that's just my 2 cents worth on it.
Thank you. Counselor Glinski.
Madam Mayor, what else are we going to engrave on this rock besides corners? As Rick has mentioned, there are a lot of people that even in my time did a lot of work on the old Springfield Hall, including, I believe, your mother did a lot of work there. I still remember some of the meals. They were fantastic. But what else were you planning on engraving on this rock at this time, if anything?
We were hoping to add in memory or in honor of, George and Rosemary Kennedy. And our mother is memorialized in that park because there was a rock that says the Mary H. Pearson Memorial Garden.
Any further questions or comments? Counselor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Certainly acknowledge you guys have done a lot for Springfield. There's no question in that. I had a few concerns, get emails and phone calls and stuff, was just about the Remembrance Day is coming up, and that's sort of one of the main purposes for the park. And that was sort of one of the concerns that was brought forward, was if you start bringing in stuff that's bigger than the cenotaph, I know that's an exaggeration. I know the rock's not bigger than the cenotaph, but it is substantial. And it's already been brought up. The other concern that was brought forward was just once rocks start showing up, how many more start showing up? It's not just about this one, it's about what future ones may come. And I think it's just about coming up with the policy that, well, that works. So we're not doing sort of one-offs. It's gotta be a bigger sort of overlook of stuff. I know it's something, don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, but it's what else will come in the future that, well, you did it for them, why won't you do it for us? And that's just where the protocol, I just not sure what it is or if we have one. So that's but the Remembrance Day stuff coming up was sort of the main sort of concerns that I've heard from constituents. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. CODS.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Just one point to also bring up on this, just based on some of the feedback, I think for staff direction to follow up, is it going to be a program that we're going to be developing when it comes to staff, or is it going to be a one-on-one engagement with the Swans in this circumstance, or a combination of both, just to clarify the direction that council is looking at?
And just to clarify then, so meaning, because we talked about maybe sort of one MOU with different components, or whether we want to look at two separate things, the park maintenance being one, and maybe we treat them completely separately. I think that would be the direction to staff. Did I get your question correctly? Because yeah, so I think the stone requires more of a bigger, from what I'm hearing from council, like a long view thinking and bigger policy. And then the park maintenance will treat separately. Anything else? Okay, sounds, do you want to proceed with the motion? Anything else you want to add at this point?
No,
And- That's right. And we appreciate that and the urgency of the whole situation as well. We'll keep that in mind. The resolution.
That the presentation from Springfield Swans regarding Memorial Park be received and that staff be instructed to prepare a policy proposal and present it to council at a future meeting.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Lewis moves, Counselor Cerna seconds. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good meeting. Our next delegation from the Elmer Malahide Museum. Larry and Ron. Welcome.
Oh, sorry. It's my stage voice, I guess. Last year, Aylmer cut our grant by almost $2,000 and Malahide by $5,000. This contributed to our current deficit of about $16,000. There are only a few local museums that are not owned by municipalities. Our museum is one of the few. To show what a bargain our museum is, consider museums owned by towns or townships. Annandale House in Tillsonburg gets $229,000 yearly from the town. They have 3 full-time and 1 part-time employees. On the little money we get, we have 2 full-time and 1 part-time employee. Ingersoll Cheese Museum gets $277,000. Elgin County Museum, $250,000 from Elgin County. And the former curator, Mike Baker, said that the art gallery also got $30,000. Beachville Museum wouldn't give actual figures, but told us that they get over $50,000 from each of Zora Township and Southwest Oxford Township. If you consider your museum important, then we are a great bargain. We are very efficient and do great work with very little reward, but it comes on the back of our employees. We don't have to pay benefits or satisfy the wage demands of unions. We can't afford to. At one stretch, our former curator went 10 years without a raise. Our present curator, with 5 years post-secondary study in museum administration, makes about $48,000 per year. Recently, the curator's position at Annandale House was posted at $120,000 per year. Now, what have our volunteers done to help financially? We have run heritage stew luncheons, murder mystery dinners, trivia nights, sold raffle tickets, held bus tours, and car rallies. Every month, we also have 4 to 6 volunteers work at the bingo in St. Thomas to augment our income. And our biggest fundraiser locally is our annual Christmas Tour of Homes. We figure that the Tour of Homes requires 2,000 man-woman hours, but we put as many as 750 visitors through the houses, and it brings in about $15,000 annually. Nearly 300 of those 750 visitors come from outside the Aylmer-Malahide region, some of them from as far away as Ottawa, Toronto, and Edmonton. Last year, our volunteers, through these activities, brought in over $55,000. We can't ask them to do a lot more, but they are trying. So what is our solution for the $16,000 deficit? Well, we're going to have to shut down. We will lay off our employees for 2 months. That will save us $8,000, but at the cost of being less prepared for our next season. We are going to try to plead with Aylmer to restore our lost $2,000. That will bring their grant to about $26,000. And we are asking Malahide for $15,000, which we hope you will consider to be reasonable at least. If both of these happen, we could likely avoid the employee layoffs. If your museum is considered valuable, then it should be supported financially. Federal and municipal grants currently represent about 38% of our financial needs. We are reaching a breaking point, and we know we can't go on alone. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to council for any questions and clarification or commentary from staff. Councilor Cerna.
Yeah, thank you. Excuse me, Ron, are you guys still buying a building to expand?
Yes, we've got, about 2 years ago, we actually bought the building. We now own it.
And how much did you guys pay for that building?
$350,000. It was quite a bargain, actually.
Okay, and how much is it going to cost to renovate it to make it to a proper facility for a library?
Well, our engineer's report that we just received suggested almost $2 million.
So you're spending $2.375 million, right? To make it to a library. Museum, sorry. Why do I just have library on my brain? Different topic. So you're spending $2,375,000 for a museum.
Yes.
And you're coming here asking us for $15,000?
It's, that's.
Or you're going to shut down?
Beg your pardon? Are we,
You're asking us for $15,000,
Mhm.
but you're spending $2,375,000 to expand.
that's coming through fundraising and grants, all of which are going to be available to us once we have a plan in place. And the grants are amazingly substantial for capital works like that. So my colleague Larry, who's the finance chair for the museum, might have a comment on that. He's the.
He was my
finance-
math teacher one time. Yes, that's right.
Sure. Don't go away, Ron. We spent 10 years raising the 350,000. The plan is long-term with the new building. We have another 150,000 raised to this point, which won't go very far. But we need a plan, and we're working on the plan. The first step we have to do is get an elevator so we can move our equipment up and down. We have to have bathrooms on the first floor for our patrons. So maybe the first phase is 200,000, and maybe this is a 20 or 30 year. We want to expand out the back eventually. We want to put a new stairs up, but this will be a ongoing thing. We sure don't have 2 million, but what we're asking for now has very little to do with the new building, that because Aylmer has given us tax-free, the new building, property tax-free. We just have costs now of hydro heating. So they're not huge. And of course, that is part of our costs. But yeah, we've just had a real roadblock on our day-to-day operational costs. And this 15,000 really will not go into the renovation of the new building at all. It will go into paying our employees.
So are you maintaining 2 buildings now?
Yes, and of course, as soon as we get an elevator in, as soon as we get washrooms on the bottom floor, I suspect we will then sell the old building. It's appraised at about 150,000, so we might get it a little more than that too, but it belongs to us. Both buildings belong to the board, which, if you think about it, is fairly impressive because we do not have huge municipal support from either Aylmer or Malahide. And, but we really need to pay our employees, and really the extra 10,000 we're asking from, we will not quite cover our deficit, but we're hoping for more fundraisers and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Boylan, could I ask you to comment on, because our grant program, the application process is underway at the moment. Could you comment on that and where this fits?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So our grant application deadline is October 31st, as I'm sure you gentlemen are well aware. So at this time, I would just urge you to submit an application as you have in prior years. And a big part of how we assess those applications is based on financial needs. So if, like, make sure what you spoke to tonight shines through on your application. We'll have a committee that will assess the applications first. It will then be presented to council, and then during our budget deliberations in early 2025, council will make the decision regarding funding.
Great, thank you for that. Anything else from council or Larry or Ron? Look forward to reviewing your application then. Thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us. We have the resolution to receive this report.
That the presentation from the Elmer Malahide Museum, summary of museum activities, verbal presentation be received.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Lewis moves, Counselor Cerna seconds, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, next we move to approval of business, so the consent agenda. So you will recognize these items were discussed in committee of the whole a couple of weeks ago. There are no further discussion or comments on any of those items. Seeing none, we'll proceed with the resolution, please.
That all items listed under approval of business from October 3rd, 2024, council agenda be approved and the recommendations listed in Part 80E therein be adopted.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Wilson moves, Counselor Cerna seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Next, under new business, we have one application for consent to sever, and Mr. Steele is with us. Good evening.
Good evening. Before
Go ahead.
council, thank you. Before council tonight is two consent applications, E82-824 and E83-24. They are applying to the property of 11683 Springfield Road. The property is located in the southwest corner of Springfield Road and Clinton Street in the village of Springfield. That's approximately 3,700 square meters, or about 0.9 acres in size, and contains an existing dwelling. And the owner is proposing to sever two new residential lots. The proposed retained parcel, or parcel A, as shown on pages 22 and 23 of the agenda, would be approximately 1,200 square meters and came to be a lot that would contain the existing dwelling. And parcel B and parcel C would be severed on the south and west sides of the retained lands, and both lots would meet the minimum lot area and frontage requirements of the zoning bylaw. The proposed severances would comply with provincial and local policies regarding direction of growth and development to settlement areas, as well as encouraging infill development and providing additional housing options. The proposed severances meet the additional criteria established under both the county and local official plans, which include things like having frontage on an open public road, are able to be appropriately serviced by municipal sanitary system as well as private well, and would not be negatively impact any kind of drainage in the area, subject to the recommended conditions by staff that are applied. And this include matters or requirements for the owner to address matters relating to the provision of lot grading and drainage plan, any kind of management of stormwater, as well as fulfilling all the requirements for hookups to the existing sanitary connections along Clinton Street and Springfield Road. And so staff recommend the Township Council support the approval of the consent applications, subject to the recommended conditions that have been provided by staff. And that concludes my presentation. I have two questions from members of council.
Thank you. Questions from council? Or comments? Seeing none, we'll proceed with the motion, please.
The report number DS 24-45 entitled Applications for Consent to Sever number E82-24 and E83-24 of 2757886 Ontario Inc., Co-Neil Hebert be received, and that the applications for consent to sever of 2757886 Ontario Inc. relating to the property located at Plan 71 Lot 36 and Plan 120 Lot 132 Concession Gore STR and known municipally as 11683 Springfield Road be supported for the reasons set out in this report, and that this report and the recommended conditions be forwarded to the Land Division Committee for its review and consideration.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor moves. Councillor Glinsky seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Mr. Steele. Have a nice evening.
You as well.
The next report, Malahide Water Distribution System. Mr. Gopi.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to council. Report PW 2437 is with regards to the Malahide Water Distribution System, our 2024 MECP inspection. This is a pretty standard report, happens annually that the MECP comes down and they poke around and check out our water system and our operations and check all our files and records and make sure that we're doing everything that we are supposed to be doing in order to provide safe drinking water to our residents in our communities. I'm very pleased to report that once again, we've received a compliance score of 100%. We had no issues, no concerns. And I give lots of credit to our staff, Sam from Malahide and Aqua and all of their staff that make sure that everything runs smoothly and that we are continually in compliance with providing this drinking water. If council has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Cerna?
No questions, just a comment. I think this is 10 years in a row that it's been 100%. So my hat's off to everybody involved. It's never, I don't know why they do it. I mean, it's been that way for at least 10 years that I remember. That's as long as I've been here. So kudos. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson?
Through you, Madam Mayor. It's a great track record and much better than Walkerton.
And that's why we don't stop monitoring. That's the moment you stop monitoring is when trouble happens. So yes, keep up the good work. There are no further questions or comments. I have a motion, please.
The report number PW 2437 entitled Malahide Water Distribution System 2024 MECP inspection be received.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lewis moves, Councillor Blinsky seconds. All in favor? That's carried. Next are bylaws. So we have two bylaws. Proceed with the motion, please.
That the following bylaw be now read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bylaw 2458, ownership of the alley, and that the following bylaw be read a third and final time. Bylaw 2438, Laidlaw Drain.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lewis moves, Councillor Wilson seconds. Any further discussions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Next, we'll proceed with the Committee of the Whole. Can I have a motion to move into Committee of the Whole, please?
Resolved that we do now move into the Committee of the Whole.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Cerna moves. Councillor Wilson seconds. All in favor? That is carried. And I believe the only item for the committee this evening is correspondence. Any comments, discussion, endorsements? And I believe, so Councillor Leach sent her regrets for this evening, wanted to support item 5. And the request or the plea from big city mayors to solve the crisis campaign. Any further comments on that? Deputy Mayor Widner?
Okay, we're done with that one. I would just maybe support number 6. Blue box, we got to keep that in line and keep that flowing to the best of our ability.
Yes, good point. And Director Godby, you wanted to comment on that as well?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the Deputy Mayor for flagging that one. I was going to request council support of that item. As you may be aware, that currently these industrial, commercial, institutional sector businesses are not eligible for curbside collection under the current scheme of going to producer responsibility. So that actually does have a direct effect on a number of businesses within Malahide that at one time would have received curbside recycling collection from the township when we were doing it. However, with the producer responsibility, they are no longer obligated to collect those sources, and it leaves these businesses in a situation where they are responsible for their own recycling disposal. One of the big concerns with this is that if people aren't getting free recycling at their property and they're going to have to pay to get rid of it, that they may just decide to throw it in the garbage, which is kind of defeating the entire purpose of the recycling programs. So I think that it would be prudent for Malahide to show some support for this this request to have the province relook at that aspect of the program.
Thank you for those comments. And just to clarify, I know we were in a transition process, so that portion, is that already kicked in? So our businesses are excluded now?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, technically, yes. We have been working with our collection contractor on maintaining that service at this point. However, what that does is it leaves us in a position where we're not getting the funding to cover those costs. To date, we have not cut any of these businesses off. However, we are starting to get some pressure to be tightening up and following the rules as they are currently written. So over the next couple months, I'm going to be working with our collection contractor to try and identify all those that are clearly deemed ineligible, and then we will have to communicate that out to those businesses. Alternatively, we're going to look at what other options may exist that might allow Malahide to help provide some assistance in such a thing, knowing that we're not dealing with an excessively large number of businesses. Just in general, if there is a residential use on the property, they still can fall under the guidelines for collection at a residential service. However, properties that are clearly one of those ICI uses are technically not supposed to be picked up as of July 1st of this year.
Okay, thank you for that. So perhaps that will come up also in maybe a budget deliberations and waste management master plan and all of that fun stuff. Okay, so yes, interesting situation. Councillor Wilson?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's I don't really know if it's a question, it's a comment, I guess. Like, businesses pay a higher tax rate than most other places, and they get less service. That doesn't make any sense. So I don't know where like this wonderful idea came from, but it's counterintuitive and lacks common sense.
Yeah, and I think that's why you're seeing that resolution from all municipalities saying, okay, the intent was great savings for the municipalities now that we've moved to producer responsibility, but there's a there's a gap there somewhere that needs to be addressed. So we'll contribute our voice to this resolution. In our correspondence, there's also the Santa Claus parade request. Comments from council? Councillor Wilson.
It's a great event in a great village, and we should support it all the way.
All right. Okay, any other comments on other items? We have the resolution then, please.
Resolved that the Committee of the Whole support items 4, 5, and 6, and the remaining items be filed.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Serna moves, Councillor Wilson seconds, all in favor? That is carried. So that's it for the committee of the whole, so we can adjourn.
Is resolved that we do now move out of the committee of the whole and reconvene the regular council meeting.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Glinski moves, Counselor Lewis seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Which takes us to closed session.
The council move into closed session at 7:46 PM pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act as amended to discuss the following: a personnel matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal and local board employees, and HR department update, section 239(2)C, an education and training, customer service procedures and policies workshop, section 239(3)(1).
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Wilson moves, Deputy Mayor Widner seconds. All in favor? That is carried. We are ready to come out of closed sessions. May I have a resolution, please?
The council move out of closed session and reconvene at 8:45 PM in order to continue with its deliberations, and that council provided staff direction on the following items discussed in closed session and that there is nothing further to report.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Cerna moves, Counselor Lewis seconds. All in favor? That's carried. It takes us to confirmatory bylaw.
That bylaw number 2458 being a confirmatory bylaw be given first, second, and third readings and properly signed and sealed.
Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Widner moves, Counselor Wilson seconds. All in favor? It's carried. And adjournment.
The council adjourned its meeting at 8:45 PM to meet again on November 7th, 2024 at 7 PM.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Widner moves. Counselor Cerna seconds. All in favor? That is carried. That concludes our meeting for this evening. Have a nice evening.